Be fun.
Yeah. I, I think we should just keep on the topic we were discussing before we just went live here, which was around like there's two times you launch art. It's like when you're creating it and then when you let it go. And everybody gets to see it. Um I
Yeah.
come back to this like like the process of you being an artist, like the iterations of like idea to paper or I guess to computer, and then like deciding when you're like ready to let that go. What is that process like for you?
Yeah. So it's interesting. I mean, sometimes I'll one sec. Sometimes I'll start with a concept in mind. Sometimes I'll start with a title, and then recently I've been really trying to focus on the feeling that I want to convey with this piece. Right. So you can create a bunch of pieces, but if it doesn't, if you have like an idea in your head of who you want to reach with this piece, and you're not thinking about how it's going to make them feel, like, I feel like you're shooting yourself in the foot, right? Um, Sorry, what was your other question?
And like when you're like that idea come like when you're ready to like let it go. I feel like that's one that again, when I
Mm.
made my art piece and I think a lot of artists you see this, they're like I worked on this for a year. What was that like? Where's that? Is it just like you're like, yes, this is, I'm happy with this, or it just feels right? Like letting that go into the world.
Yeah, I think there's like different artworks that you sort of like keep behind, some that you put out on Twitter on the daily, just to just keep up with the current like narrative and um, things going on in the world, right? So like things that you can think about on the daily and just sort of send out a signal and see who picks it up and receives it, right?
Yeah.
And then there's other artworks where well, for me at least, that I sort of hold back. Um, I sort of cherish the time that I have with them, and then when I feel like they're ready to release, um, something might happen, like a just a moment of madness where I'm just like, okay, I feel like this is ready now, and then I'll put it out. And I mean, typically the pieces that I hold back that are most personal, um, because they're so personal to me, they seem to get like the sort of like least engagement, and that's something that I'm totally cool with, right? Like I know how to play the viral game. I know how to play just like um, I know how to be me, and it's just what version of me I want to jump in at that right time, right?
Right. Yeah. I I can totally emphasize that. I think also just real quick, uh, uh those tuning in, we're joined today with an artist that I've looked up to, have collected art from uh since the earliest days of me being in the space. Um, Odious is somebody who got into the world of art 2019. I think started putting out art with Super Rare. You've seen him work with projects such as Pixel Vault, but his pieces have sold for tens of thousands of dollars. I think actually you had one piece go for over $100,000 for like 40 soul at the peak of the NFT cycle. Um, and I think
Yeah.
what has gravitated me to you so much is all of your art has there's emotion in it. You are somebody who I think really lets their emotions come out through their art. And I think
Mm.
you've also turned especially over the last few things you've done with tickets, the invitations, the book, somebody who really focuses on lore and storytelling around their art as well. And I love that. I'm so glad to have you here today. I think it's maybe even better if you give an intro on yourself and how you started, and just let us know who you are.
Yeah. Yeah, appreciate that. So I'm Odious. I've been making art since I guess like 2020. Um, I didn't really know what I was going to do with my life. I was a graphic designer, freelance graphic designer for a couple of years, and one day I just decided that this isn't fulfilling me. Like I was chasing someone else's dream all the time, and I wanted to. I felt like I had more to give, right? And so in 20, I think it was like summer 2020, that's when I first bought an iPad, and I basically just started jotting down my thoughts. Eventually, turned them into artworks, and grew a following on Twitter. And it was quite interesting because the same time that I sort of joined the art Twitter, NFTs started to like go crazy, right? So it was like the beginning of something. I guess like 2021 was when NFTs went crazy, but like 2020 is like when the people that believed in NFTs, those were the people that were like rewarded in 2021.
Yeah.
So I remember like the come up of Ferocious, Jonathan Wolf, Parrotism, Etienne Krause, like all those fantastic artists. And I think I minted my first piece on Rarible in late 2020. Wasn't expecting it to sell or anything like that. And I believe it was like 2 days later it sold. And I don't know, it sort of gave me the fire to feel like, people fuck with my work. Like there's, I can do something here, right? I can make a difference. And I remember the moment that piece sold, I looked for another artwork that I was really interested in from an artist that was in one of our group chats, and I immediately bought that piece, just because like I wanted to share that same feeling that I had once I like first sold my first piece, with that other artist, right?
I feel like that was a really strong energy in the earliest of days where it was like, hey, I got ETH. Like it wasn't what floor am I sweeping? It was like what art am I buying? It
Yeah,
was
100%.
less of this like get in, get out quick, make profit. It really did feel like there was like an art renaissance happening in the earliest days.
And that's what felt so good about it as well, is like the idea that artists can create like perpetual royalties from their work. I think that pulled a lot of artists in and felt like you're saying, like a creative renaissance. Just because it, you know, you can be a living artist and make money, make a difference, and that's something that I guess we didn't really see in the traditional art world. I'm not too clued up there, but yeah, I feel like a lot of the cliche sayings is like you only really make you only really make it as an artist when you're dead. But I feel like NFTs has sort of changed that concept or mindset.
Yeah, I have thought about that greatly. We all the NFT artists are alive. I believe at this point. I don't think anybody's died. Um, so we don't really have any market data there quite yet. It'd be interesting to see some of the long tails here. I think obviously some of the grails like punks and autoglyphs will always be sought after as like historic pieces and very early. But when an artist is gone and there's no more art coming out from them, and if there's still demand, I would assume that we're going to see some collections start up that exponential curve of, wow, like they were so ahead of their time, they're gone, they had a you know impact on the industry.
Yeah, yeah. I think one name, rest in peace, Money Alotta. I think his work's going to be very sought after in the future and just like very respected. I feel like he was ahead of his time, as you say.
I have to check that out. I no, I did not know that he had passed away.
Yeah.
It's very unfortunate. Are there a lot of artists that you looked at as like influence on your journey? Um, and like your
Yeah.
style or like the way like you was just like art like again, it seems like you kind of came in and got thrown into the fire pit of the world of digital art and actually just art overall. Because when we were talking yesterday, you're like, well, I was never an artist. I know nothing about art.
Yeah.
And you just came in. Curious who you look to as the influence.
Yeah. I guess in a very, very early days, there was this artist called Mushu who created this like ongoing series between like two devil characters. Um, and it really connected with me. And so, great artists steal. So like I tried to take what he did and recreate it in my own sort of attach my own sort of like personal life to it, and I created this like never-ending love story between these two characters. And because they were so, it was such like a relatable concept. It did really well. Like, it was probably the most viral art, the most engaged art I've created since creating Odious. And then yeah, so I'd say he was probably who I was inspired by the most at the time. And then as I like got into like the NFT scene and began to like um, open open up to more artists, probably the people that I was like closest with, so like Ferocious, Jonathan Wolf, Etienne Kraus, like I really enjoyed the way that they sort of carried themselves and stayed true to what just stay true to themselves as an artist.
I think
And
that's
then
hard. That's hard to do. I feel like, especially
no,
when
definitely.
once you have like a few collectors, I think a lot of artists get lost in the sauce of like appeasing holders and not appeasing themselves.
Yeah. And I think and I was sort of reflecting on this earlier, but Xcopy, he was not only like ahead of his time, but he knew exactly what he wanted from the day he started minting. Like the I don't know if he was the original creator of glitch art, but he's definitely one that popularized it, and he's stuck with it ever since. Right? He was just like, he knew what he wanted to do. He knew the expression that he wanted to share, and yeah, I feel like, props to him, right? That is something that along my journey, I'm a bit of a creative butterfly, so I've jumped between a bunch of different styles, and I feel like over the last couple of years, I found where I want to head with my art. Um, but yeah, it definitely, like, you can see the footsteps of my original work to where I am now. Like, you can follow that entire journey. And there's been some different eras. Like, I had my characters. I had more like personal art, and now I'm leaning more into like trying to take my art and make it into like this like larger than me, And that, I feel like that's what I'm trying to achieve with this book. Um, yeah.
Let's talk about the book a little bit. For those who aren't aware, you created your own digital book. It's an experiential uh, piece of art. I think that's a fair way to put it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And you also, on the horizon here, you just sent out 60 invitations. You have another piece of experiential art process that involves 60 other people in that process. Um, Big shift away from the early days into, again, experiential storytelling, uh, I guess, era for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a couple of years ago, I think it was like 2023, I started crafting this idea for a collection, and it essentially, I borrowed an idea that I did in like I think it was like 22 with Nifty Gateway, where essentially you would take you would you would burn two of one artwork to get the next edition in the series, but you'd also receive the physical of the piece that you burned. So you sort of like kept the physical and you received the new artwork. And I really like the idea of um, deflation at that point. So I wanted to like sort of rehash that idea with the book and go bigger with it. And so I did an open edition in 2023, and uh, I didn't go into it with any sort of expectation. Like, to be honest, I thought it was going to do um, underperform, and I remember, yeah, I put out the mint, and the mint was only $11, because I just wanted to create like a high edition, like low cost mint. I thought it was a little bit different to what the other artists were doing at the time. Um, Actually, saying that, like, I didn't know this before, but shout out Guido. He's like an amazing photographer in the space, and I didn't realize this until like a couple of months ago. But him creating the Silicon Kiss was sort of like the original idea of a high edition, well, his was free, deflationary collection that, you know, eventually curates over time based on the burns. So I feel like he pioneered that concept and doesn't get enough love for it. But that was sort of the idea. $11 to mint, and completely blew my expectations. Ended up minting just over like 40K tickets, and that basically, whilst I was like eternally grateful, like that created such a unexpected pressure for me to where I now felt like the original idea I was crafting up is not large enough for the stage that I've now been given. And so we started moving through the different chapters. I think we got to like chapter 4, and then we hit a wall with like Ethereum gas. Like it was going crazy during like the Pepe times, and the UI as well. Like I just had people reaching out to me in DMs, just confused at like how to burn, because there was a point in the story where people had to collect balloons, and one of the balloons would turn into one artwork and the other 3 turned into the same artwork. So I sort of used a concept that Pac pioneered back in, I think it was like 2021 with Nifty Gateway.
Yep.
Called the title, where all the artworks are the same on the surface, but the token is what matters, right? So I tried to like introduce that because I felt like it was a brilliant concept, and I feel like it just fell flat, right? People didn't really understand what was going on. They might not have been around for when Pac originally did that, so didn't know where that inspiration came from. And so there was a burn on my website where you had to click a little circle, and it was depending on the color of your balloon at the time. And people with like 20 different balloons across the different colors, they would only see that it shows like 6 because it's, you know, it's on like the pink balloon. So I had people reaching out like, I have 20 balloons, but it just says I only have 6. And at that point, I was just like, okay, well, there's going to be consistent burns going forward. This is something that we need to like solve for now. So I went back to the drawing board, and I mean, it took me 2 years to create what is now the book.
The tech side of that, I feel like, is the real, like, you're like the art side, you can be as creative as you want. You can do that. That's your like wheelhouse. That required you going and finding like partners and
Yep.
really I mean, again, really pushing you to like explore new boundaries as an artist. And I think we should applaud, like, that's got to be really scary. I think for me, like, I'm a little bit on the opposite side. Like, you put me in front of, like, I can go build, I can do that, but if I had to like attach art to it, I'd be like, oh, like shit, like,
Right.
I need a partner here.
Yeah. So I remember that the idea that I had was just too big for what I could achieve as an individual. So I started reaching out to a bunch of different people, just trying to pull a team together that could help me build this, right? Unfortunately, Manifold didn't have the tools at the time, so I had to like create it all under my own roof. And so like the entire profits from that original drop went into building this experience. It's an experience that I will like cherish and call back to forever. I feel like it's a defining moment in myself, but also my career. And yeah, I mean, I'm just super grateful for the people that I did find. James Howden, like Hunter, Jen, like, yeah, they crushed it. I wouldn't have been able to create the book without them. There's a lot of under the hood things that we don't see, but very appreciative of, you know, them wanting to build this and having this just as much enthusiasm as I did when I came to them with the idea.
Now you are on to the next idea. Well, I guess it is related. The next idea, which is the participation of a small group of people in a very intimate setting, that and I think you put it very interestingly earlier, which is to make your art bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
to make it. I don't know. I don't like DAO, but it is a similar idea to a DAO. And
Yeah.
we brought up, like, Sam Sprout has done this very well with the skulls. There is no DAO, but there is a group of people who just come around the art to be a member of it and to participate in the activations and kind of, I think, um in some sense, like, parade's not the word, prolificate maybe? Like, they are true representations of, like, we are the holder base, we love the artist, we love the art. You are now setting off on your journey to the 60 invitations, invite in a very special group of people, have them make decisions and grow. Could maybe elaborate a little bit on that and
Yeah.
end goals?
So yeah, inspired by what Sam's created with the Skulls of Lucy, and sort of like what Axe created with the Broken Keys, I felt like um, it was very smart the way that they've managed to find the people that care about their work the most in sort of like the quickest way possible as well. So like Sam with his Genesis 101s, which I was a participant in. Not only do you so after the auctions, he basically let everyone know that whoever bid on those original pieces would receive a Skull of Lucy, right? And that sort of like instantly formed a group of people that were willing to support him to the point where they were bidding on his work, and so like instantly you have like a group of people with a common interest, and so I wanted to like sort of take the good parts about this and apply it to my own brand, and I felt like with chapter 6 in this book, it was the perfect time to do so. So essentially, I sent out these invitations, making sure that like all the people that have supported me in the past, from collectors, artists that I've like looked up to, shared conversations with, helped me out in difficult times, and then just the people that show up every single day, giving me their time, which is arguably the most valuable currency there is. That means a lot to me, and so I wanted to invite them into what I'm calling the waiting room. And on the envelope, there was a secret code at the bottom that said, "Presented as an offering, not a promise." And that's because though 60 keys seek 60 hands, not everyone's going to make it through to the final collective, and we're going to find out pretty soon how that unfolds. So looking forward to that. But the intention behind these invites was I wanted to create friction before we reach the point where everyone's in the group, because everyone's got busy lives, and some people that just might not be interested in being involved in something like this. So I just went into people's DMs and sent them the image, right, of the letter. And anyone that reacted or like shared words with me, they would then receive a follow-up link to the waiting room, which again is another barrier. Like some people just don't like Discords. Like 2021 has passed, nobody's in Discords anymore. It's all about Telegram. And so I wanted to put these barriers in place to ensure that anyone that was in the final waiting room are people that like, generally fuck with my work and want to see me grow, and they can grow alongside me. Like that's the whole idea.
I think with the plateau of like all these like 2024, like all these mints and all the art we've seen, that the performance hasn't been there. And I don't want to make it like a financial thing, but I think it's like the wrong people end up being holders sometimes, where they're not like, they don't want to be there. They're just there because of a tweet and them being told, well, you should go buy this. And then there's no conviction or there's no excitement. I think the friction point of like, do you really want to own this? Do you really want to participate? Is an idea that one we should kind of get back to, because that's originally where I think we all started off on, like, these small mints, these like collections in the early days. You really, really had to like show up and be like, oh, I want in, like I'm here, like I want to hold, I want to be part of the community. Um, we should get back to that. I feel like that was also like, I think back to Bored Ape Yacht Club Mint. I remember seeing that and being like, I don't care what I have to do. And I minted, but the early days after that being like, I don't care. Like I need to get in this. I want to be in the bathroom drawing the pixel art. I want to like be in the group chat. Um, there was real drive to be there. And I think we missed that for a lot of different collections today.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I think what was exciting about NFTs was the communities that formed, right? I don't think anyone was sort of thinking about the numbers at that point. I think that's sort of like there's proof there in the fact that most of us held the bags all the way down, right? Because we
Do
just
not remind
enjoyed the
me.
ride. Yeah.
But yes, we
Um,
did. We enjoyed the ride.
yeah. And then now with meme coins, you don't really have that same sort of like community aspect. You just have a bunch of people in a Telegram waiting to dump their bags onto the next person, right? It's who's left holding the bag. So yeah, I definitely miss those 21 days. I think there will be a time where we get back to that. And to be honest, I do think it starts with art, sort of like how it did with the original Bull Run. Like things started to bubble around 2020, and it just sort of exploded in 2021. And then you had like the corporate businesses come in and sort of like share the creative pie. And I feel like we'll sort of see we'll see that again. We're starting to see like some of the more respected artists or well-known artists doing pretty well right now, and I think that leads to a larger NFT boom, and then eventually it crashes. But get in, get out. Yeah.
I mean, the last few days have seemed like the one of one space at the highest level. We saw like a $1.1 million X copy sale. We've seen some autoglyph sales. Um, Sam Spratt has had, I think, a Scholar 2 sale. It definitely has emerged that there's appetite at the highest level. And I think that's also kind of trickled down into other collections. I've seen some squiggles start to go that you didn't see that volume there before. Even I think other people that would group in the one of one category or editions category, they start to get some volume. What do you think for you? And I think like when you're looking at artists right now that might not have that like previous known collector base, or they might not have had that like limelight, like are you looking at other artists right now where you're like, wow, like this is like where some attention should be, or they're underappreciated? And then for yourself, I guess also on that same idea of like, where do you think you land as far as like going forward with your like attention? Because I think everybody, that's what everybody wants, is like giving you the time, giving you attention. Like, how are you navigating that as well?
Yeah. I think there's a very long list, and I could sit here all day telling you names of who I think are underappreciated. I mean, there's more underappreciated artists than there are appreciated artists. But I guess like one person that sticks out to me is Charisma. He's a guy that reached out to me a couple of years ago, and he had 11 followers at the time. Like it was kind of amazing that I even saw his message, to be honest, because of how like flooded my inbox and my notifications back then were. And yeah, we just started chatting, and I realized that I don't know, we had a very similar mind. I felt like a sort of like a long lost brother to me, and the way he carries himself in terms of his art, like he doesn't give a fuck what people think, right? He's just creating every single day whatever comes to his mind in the most pure way, and he doesn't really care about finances or anything like that. He's like the guy that you think of when they say, like, if you sent an artist in the cabin and they had no one around them, right, and they were just sitting there painting, like, he's that guy. Yeah, so I'd say charisma for sure.
I have to look. I guess I could on the stream. I probably should start pulling these things up. It is a very visual conversation.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, and I've collected a bunch of his work as well, from Nifty Gateway all the way down to his other platforms that he's dropped on. But like, I've been a big collector of his for a while, because when I see something in people, I not only just, when I get to know them, but I really want to support them. Like, with my original drop, I instantly bought another piece. With my Nifty Gateway drop, that sort of changed my life. 80% of that went back into other artists on the Nifty Gateway, just because I can share that experience with people. Money doesn't really mean a lot to me. I just want to sort of like get my message out there, get my voice out there, and create cool experiences.
It's interesting because you've mentioned Super Rare, we've mentioned Manifold, which is like a minting studio, Nifty Gateway. Do you think, like, the where you're selling this, does that have like huge? Do you think about that a lot? I feel like I don't think about this quite as much because I use OpenSea, I think, mostly. But for you as like an artist, do you think about like what chain am I going to do this on? And that, like, being in, like, having like part of the value to it, like minting on base versus ETH, I think there's a different appetite for. And then, like, where do you like do that? Is it OpenSea versus Super Rare?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's something that you got to consider as an artist. I don't like that it's that way. I feel like, art should timeless art will be timeless no matter the chain it's on. Like, you have Xcopy minting on wherever, and people will find it, right? And I feel like right now, at least, a lot of the main collections are on ETH, right? And it has some sort of like premium to it. I imagine that comes from, like, people just don't want to park their funds in L2s, right? They'd rather just keep it on ETH. And slowly but surely, ETH is becoming like kind of an L2 of its own. Like, the gas prices are becoming really cheap. So a lot of those decisions that, like, creatives have probably had when, like, choosing a chain, they're sort of, starting to become redundant now. Like,
Yeah.
I made my entire collection on base. Like, I re-airdropped the entire collection because there's going to be so many burns and so many transactions that it would just cost people a fortune. And I don't want people to just be spending money on gas just to participate in what I'm creating. Like, I just want them to enjoy the experience however they can. So yeah, sorry, I lost my train of thought.
No, I mean, I think that's a good point of, like, you can use base for these experiences, and maybe even like the end, like you can have, like, let's say the end of it is a bunch of like one of ones, like they might live on like mainnet. But the fact though around like you saying you wish it wasn't so choosy of like where you launch art has is something that I've noticed where I think things got kind of buggered up with Blur entering the scene of that really emphasized this is a financial game, and it took away this, like, that's kind of why I like the new OpenSea. It feels more like it's skewed towards like being a gallery, collecting, seeing who the other holders are, and it doesn't feel like a financial instrument.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if it's a hot take or not, but I kind of feel like Blur is one of the big reasons for the collapse of the NFTs. Like, taking away royalties, you I know that you have your initial primary sale, but those royalties gave people motivation to try new things. It gave people the funds to keep the lights on after the original mint. And I think a hidden like a hidden perk of royalties is that when you're buying something and there's like a 5% royalty, in your mind, you're thinking this has to go up at least 5% for me to make a profit, which is why floors scaled so quickly back then, because they're non-fungible. So you'd buy one for you buy one and then the floor would rise, and then the next person would buy one and the floor would rise, and then the next person would buy one. And it would keep going until that FOMO stopped, and then it starts to come back down again. And we see that day in, day out. Like some collections go to 20% and then they drop 20% the next day. But I think, one of the interesting things about royalties is that there is that hidden financial aspect to it, where you've got to think this has to go up 10% if I'm going to make a profit. And that got a lot of people trading, and a lot of the floors rose because of it.
Most importantly, though, I think rewarded artists too for the longest time. I mean,
yep.
It kind of stinks because I think the PFP meta hurt this, where that was like very tradey, and I think a lot of those companies that launched, they're like, our business model is royalties.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are telling people like, hey, we have IP, we have all this stuff, that I think that puts a lot of strain on royalties, where artists were like, this isn't like, this is my livelihood. It's not like you're taking away revenue from like a business model of like IP and merch and activations and like, for artists, it's like you are taking away my income.
Yeah, I feel like if you create something as an artist and someone profits from that, like an exponentially profits from that, you should receive a cut of that profit, because the artwork didn't just become infinitely more valuable because they've held on to it. The artwork became more valuable because the artist grew. They made themselves. They made a name for themselves, right? So they can get to the point where they're now reselling the artwork for much more than what they purchased it for. Then give a kickback to the artists. They created it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think I remember when I sold my Twin Flames, and we were like negotiating on things, and I was like, oh my god, I'm about to give 10 ETH in royalties, and I not gonna lie, I was like, that's like, it seemed crazy. I'll never forget Tropo Farmer, who we co-own 50-50 on the piece. We sold it for like 120 ETH. He was like, well, no, Justin's earned that. And I was like, you know what? You are like, that was like the moment it clicked for me. I was like, yes, like he worked his ass off to like get demand for this, to find the right collectors, to like bring these deals together. That is an artist, not only like creating more art and creating a bigger name, but also like helping fuel that demand. So I totally am on the same page there.
Yeah.
It's also why it's like one of the most interesting industries in the world, I think, to work in for artists, because you have those opportunities to, and especially when it's enforced, to know as you grow, you can have a huge sale, and you might not directly be the one who's selling the piece, but you are getting a piece of that demand.
Yeah, it's like a golden parachute, because hype comes and goes, and down the line, if you sell an artwork, that could really help out that artist that hasn't had any sales for the last couple of years. Yeah, so big up royalties.
Big up royalties. I'm curious, because we've kind of touched on this on the other side of the world. Like, you are very active as an artist. You obviously have a large collector base. You navigating as like a crypto participant, trading a little bit, buying other people's art. Where are you right now as like a participant externally looking at the market? Are you like touching any, buying anything? Or are you just like, man, I'm gonna make art and let the craziness do its thing?
Yeah, I think I put out a tweet a couple of months ago where I said like my best decisions have been from coins I don't care about. My worst decisions come from coins I don't care about. My best decisions have come from art that I do care about. And that's sort of like where I'm at. Like I did a 3 month span of like just trying to get in the trenches, seeing if I could repeat what I did back in 21 with NFTs over on meme coins, and I did pretty well. But I realized, there's a time where you got to stop, and I feel like now that we've seen like a resurgence of art, definitely more interested in helping out like again, I don't like to call them the smaller fish, but like the underappreciated artists. So recently, I've been picking up a lot of art like on an Anon account, just because I don't care about the clout from buying these artworks. I just want to support this artist, and they know who they are. And I appreciate the conversations that I have through collecting their art. So, yeah, as long as I can keep doing that, then I think I'll be sticking around.
Oh, I hope you stick around. I think everybody hopes you stick around. You've really, and I did mean this when we like started the conversation off. You are somebody that I look at and admire as an artist. And I do think when I look at your piece, you can tell that like there's a lot of like your inner emotions coming through that art, and it's powerful. And I feel like it certainly has probably helped a few people. Like they see it and they probably are like, oh wow, like I relate to that. I can pull something away from that.
Yeah, when I say I was clueless before I like got into the art scene, like I was clueless. I think my bio as an artist was making art with thoughts and emotion, and that's like all art is. I'm like, so like I look back on that and I'm like, that's how out of touch with I guess who I am as an artist now. How out of touch I was. But yeah, I with my art is very personal, at least over the last couple of years, I would say. There's a lot of Easter eggs in there. There's a lot of things that you'll find as you like dive deeper into the piece. Like the idea for my art was to always create a sort of like a digital Venus, like a Venus flytrap, right? Where you look at the piece and you're intrigued because of it looks quite eye-catching, and then as you dive deeper, you start to realize, oh shit, like there's some pretty raw stuff in here.
Yeah.
But now I'm sort of shifting into, like I said, like work that's bigger than me, like experiences that are bigger than me, and really trying to focus on the storytelling, because I feel like I've told a lot of stories in my art, but I've never sort of lived that story. And now I'm starting to live that story, and I want to try and show the process, as I've been like inspired by the people that have done that really well. Like Ack, for example, like he's one of my biggest inspirations.
Love Ack. One of the biggest mistakes of my life is not buying. He did like the 10 1-of-1s, and I think I ended up giving my allocation to somebody because at the time I was like, oh, like I'm like very, very spread thin right now. I don't know if I should be buying art. And I just remember being like, but I really, and me and him had been like DMing, and I think he put me in one of his pieces even. And I was like, I have to pick one of your pieces up. I was like, this is not the one though. Like, man, that one will haunt me for years.
Yeah. And not to put him on the spot, but like he reached out to me like ages ago, before he blew up, right? And he was
Really?
he was asking me to check out one of his works, and I never saw the message. And the next time I messaged him, I was like ready to like congratulate him on his success. I saw that message and I was like, oh fuck, like that was like one of his original like earliest mints, like kind of like pre-Ack.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and ever since then, like I've just enjoyed the way he's carried himself. I was a participant in the Broken Keys. I managed to walk away with the piano that I did not think that I would win from that auction, which was There Is No Piano, and that's a piece that I feel like no other artwork I've ever seen has taught me. Like the embodiment of that piece is like how I feel, and I would not like that's locked in the vault forever. That's the piece I want to pass on to my like grandkids. Even if I'm like in the worst position possible, I know it's like the most terrible financial advice, but I'd sell everything before I sold that piece.
Wow.
And I didn't think I'd reach a point where an artwork would do that, but that's why there's like a massive inspiration by like how Ack carries himself.
Yeah, truly one of the, I think, standout artists in my book. Top 10 for me of like who I'd want to collect. I think also has had a huge impact on a lot of other people as well. Those Twitter DMs though, man, the
They'll haunt me forever.
brutal. Yeah, when you like follow somebody and then it like a new message pops up and you're like, oh, 2021, they sent me a message. It just there's no worse feeling than that.
It's brutal. Yeah.
But it was a different time. There's too much going on in it back then. I mean,
Way too much. Like I was in 60 different Discords.
Yeah. Now it seems like it's Telegram. Maybe X will figure out a way to make DMs better, but I feel like so much was lost in the fog of war of those early days and just madness and waking up to 10 different mints and gas wars for art blocks drops. I mean that even seems crazy to me that we were waking up and we were paying $800, $1,000 with the hope of a transaction going through to get a 1 of 500 to 1 of 5,000 generated art.
Yeah, dude. I remember the other side mint. I paid an extortionate amount to mint one of those. That was an experience. I look back on that, I'm like, what the fuck? Like that's how much I was paying in gas. Like I wasn't even thinking about it at the time, because you don't, when you're like trapped in the euphoria, these aren't things that you think about. So it's good when we do reach that euphoric moment again to like step outside and maybe even just like reach out to people that are on the outside of crypto, right? And just be like, what should I do?
It's always good to have that one person in your pocket who's like not in the industry for them, like just to like get a baseline. They're like, actually, you are being insane right now. You need to like,
yeah,
like that is
like if I passed my like 2021 unrealized earnings to my like financial advisor, he'd throw up.
Yes, I don't. Those again, other side men. Disgusting number on gas that I lost, and then an even more despicable number of dollars that I lost after minting there. Yeah, an unfortunate night that I do remember quite vividly.
Good times though.
Good time. I mean, like, but that's it's all part of, I think, shaping. If you've been here long enough, I think people talk about like living through cycles. I think it shapes your outlook and how you participate and like what you take for granted versus like knowing you're in a special moment or you found something special or a special community. Um, and I think you also like yourself, you evolve over time as an artist from like different experiences and uh you end up just in a happier place knowing what you like and don't like. Um I think we also take for granted the fact that we have artists that are willing to experiment and not just put out the same thing over and over and over again. Um, but I think that comes to like a balance of like, who do you value, yourself or the collectors or the floor of your art, or are you just trying to be an artist? And that's the valuable part.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're an artist and you want to make sales, that you have to be loud about your art. if you're an artist that you don't like, you don't care about the sales, then it doesn't matter to you anyway. But I would say like the most successful artists, at least in this space, are also the best marketers, and the ones that put the most effort into the experience, the storytelling, and just getting their name out there. Because you can be the best artist in the world, but if you're living in a cabin in the woods, nobody's going to know who you are.
Yeah, oddly, it just comes to attention. I feel like a lot of the conversations I've had on stream, there is like this theme of like you just need attention. Attention is the lifeblood for everything in this space.
Yep.
Unfortunately and fortunately, if you're a good marketer, that's great. But I think that also leaves a lot of artists who are like, I just make art. I don't want to have to go on spaces. I don't want to have to post, about my recent sale or floor price up. Like, I just want to make art.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't have that in them naturally as well. Like, if you're a creative, you're not thinking about trying to be the biggest artist in the world. You're just trying to get your message across. You're trying to send a signal out and see which signals are you receive, right? So, yeah, the life of an artist.
I'm very jealous though. I wish I could be an artist and just I don't have the creativity for it. I'm blown away when people can wake up and just be like, like I feel this. I'm putting it to my iPad. I was gonna say paper. iPad is the new canvas. I think that's a fair statement.
Yeah, no, definitely. When you think of like an apple in your head, what do you think of, like, what do you see? Do you see the full apple? Do you see a silhouette?
I see like a 3D bright shiny red apple.
Okay. Well,
I think very isometric. I mean, my background's in engineering, so for most things I think I go isometric, like these 3D.
yeah.
Like I can rotate an apple in my head, see all like the different angles of it. Could not put that to paper, iPad, or like.
Do you think that's just because like not enough time's been in developing that skill, or just you don't have the interest, or?
No, I mean, I've always wished I could be an artist. I just don't think, maybe it is like a skill thing. My brother's a great artist. Like growing up, he would draw things, and he's got like portraits and landscape drawings around the house. But yeah, just for me, it never clicked. And when I decided, I sat down in 2021. I was like, you have to make a piece of art. And I put out I did a 1-of-1 on Foundation, which was like my resignation letter when I quit my job. And that was like a very cool, and I was like, but that's like, that feels more like performance art. It doesn't feel like,
but that's art, right?
It's
like
true.
I'd say Jack Butcher is like the king of this, like
He
taking
is.
large ideas, making them, like, condense them down to the most minimalist form, and marketing them in a way that grabs attention.
He really has absolutely blown people out of the water in this, like, it's performance art, but it isn't. It's like it sends a message in a 2025 2020 2020 era style.
Yeah, like if we're talking about people that are ahead of their time, like there's artworks that he's shared this year that I feel like people are going to look back on in a couple of years time, or like 10 years time, and be like, oh shit, like he really knew something. He was tapped in.
What specifically?
I'd have to like pull out the specific artwork, but there was it was one with an AI robot. I can't remember exactly what they're doing, but let me see if I can pull that real quick.
Yeah. Oh, here I can. The magic of us being on a live stream and being on, I don't know why I can't find Jack Butcher.
Yeah, me neither.
Oh, here it is. I don't know why he's.
Oh, he changes PFP. That's why.
Yeah. The robot.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Dude, he posts a lot.
He posts a lot. but like the visualized value stuff, so good. Like it's just black and white. Oh, I can share this by the way here while I'm looking. Chrome tab, Jack Butcher should be live. While I find this robot, let's see here. But yeah, like this is like the style of art. It's just like very, very minimalistic.
Mm-hmm.
This is something I would hang in the house for sure. There's one from this series that is like it's like two different, it's like a chart and like just like two squares out of it, and how you can look at a chart going down in a short period and be like, I lost money, but the overall is like in this trend up. And I think it's a very good I think perspective of mind and like looking at a glass half empty, oh, literally right here. Stuff like this, how you frame things is very important in life. So this is actually one of the ones I was looking through, but now the floor on these is ungodly.
Mm-hmm.
It's outside of my acquisition range. But no, he's definitely an artist that I think ahead of his time is definitely a good point.
Yeah. I'm gonna find that picture and I'll tweet it out later.
Tweet it. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I it's hard to really think though about like where are we gonna be and like what art is gonna stick around. I think that one seems more obvious. But he's had like, again, it comes down to like he's done so good marketing his stuff. His social presence is massive. Do you think about like getting louder socially? I mean, obviously, you came on live with me, so like in some sense, yes, you appreciate that sense of it in some way, but
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely something that I want to like focus on, especially this year. I feel like I said, like I'm starting to live the process, and now I want to start to be able to show that to people. I don't really know, like, quite know what that like formula is yet. If that's like live streaming or video content, or short little TikTok clips. Like, I don't know what that looks like, but I definitely want to bring people into how I create. And like as you say, yeah, get loud. Like I'm hoping that I can get to a point where, in 10 years time, I can do a TED talk. I can't do that today. I couldn't do that in 21. I couldn't even pick up the phone in 21. So yeah, little by little, we'll get there. Just got to keep pushing through.
yeah, I mean, it's a process. I think everything is you evolve over time, you get more comfortable, you get more you start being like, all right, well, I did this, now I can go a little bit bigger or think a little differently. I would watch you. I started watching the Bo Leonidas live streams of him drawing. um I don't know what it is. I'll throw it on the side monitor while I'm working, and I just like, it's therapeutic. And then I have like even a deeper like love for like the final piece, because I'm like, oh yeah, I watched that come to life.
Yeah, because I was like so nervous about coming on here. I wanted to test if I could draw whilst answering questions. So I did it earlier, and it wasn't working, right? So that's a skill that I need to develop, but I think that would be pretty cool in the future. Just sort of me being in my element, being able to talk to chat. Like, that's definitely a future goal for me.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to you getting there and everything working. I will be a viewer 100%.
Oh yeah.
100%, man. Um, I, look, I think we've spent a ton of time here today going through like your personal views and the market. Um, I think we're about to see a very exciting new era or a new journey for you with these invitations. I'm beyond, like, I'm over the mountain, over the sun, like excited to be participating in it. Um, I kind of wanted to end just with like your thoughts of like, or your like your if there's anything you want to say to like the people who are watching, or to people that want to know more about you, know more about your art, like what to expect, or um
Yeah.
where do you see the rest of the year going for yourself?
Um, so we're currently at chapter 5 in the book. Chapter 6 is when the small group, the collective that I'm forming, will make a very impactful decision where essentially, uh, in my introductory video, I said that the book is technically not finished, and that's true because this collective is the group that's going to help me finish that book. There's 3 different chapters that I've written, and 6 different artworks that come paired with each of those paths, and only one will make it into the book. So the 6 artworks will enter the collection, and the rest of the 12 will just be um, this idea of like, oh, what if we chose that other path, like sort of like long lost cousins. And Yeah, so we're on chapter 5, moving on to chapter 6. There's going to be 10 chapters in total, and at the end of the 10th chapter is when I will start to release the one-of-one auctions. And I'm not going to say too much, but there's a few surprises attached to those as well.
Oh man, I I'm excited. I'm so excited, man. I couldn't be more excited for you as well, because we're the journey is still underway, and the finish line to these exciting things that you've had in your head and you've been creating over the past months and years are about to become public. And again, that's like, there's the launch of art when you're creating it, and then the launch when it leaves your hands and then goes out into the world's eyes and into their wallets as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I'm a big ideas person. I like to experiment. And even though I'm like halfway through one of the biggest projects of my career, um, I'm still thinking about other collections, other things that I can sort of break. And I'm interested to see what that looks like when they fully come to fruition.
Pushing the boundaries.
Always.
Always. Man, Odious, I want to thank you, man, for hopping on, chatting with me, taking the leap into a live stream. I know it just I'm very grateful. I'm Again, I've said this so many times, but I'm excited for you. I hope people, if you're watching, you're not already, make sure you're following him, join the journey, check out his art. Um, and then yeah, I could not be more excited.
Oh yeah, man. Well, thanks for having me on. I've always enjoyed the way you've carried yourself in the
Appreciate that.
space. I think what you're doing here with the live stream format is very interesting, um, especially in a space that, I don't know, comes equipped with very generic base level interviews. I feel like you sort of get to know the person and dig deeper and really, I don't know, just let them talk about themselves for an hour. Um, and I appreciate you having me on here.
Of
Hopefully, we can
course.
do this again sometime.
Let's do it again. We should figure out you live drawing, and we should do something together there. Um, I have so many little ideas and things we could figure out, but let's certainly do it again. I'm looking forward to it. Huge thank you to everybody who tuned in today. And of course, we will catch